Welcome today to Let's Talk Real Estate with Alvin Morales. I have today a very special guest. Before I mention who he is, I'm going to touch on a couple key points. He has been developing real estate for the past 30 years, almost exclusively within the city of Reading. With over 100 million square feet of development, totaling over $100 million. Some of his notable projects is the Abraham Lincoln, also known as the Lincoln Towers. That's the Berks County tallest privately owned building. The Reading Outlet Center, also known as the Big Mill. The neighborhood redevelopment, which we revitalized an entire neighborhood over a 9-year redevelopment that included a 10 building totaling 640,000 square feet. He also holds a bachelor's degree in Penn State University, completed courses in Bucknell University and Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, and has a Harvard University. Excuse me. He also served in the United States Army as an executive officer of a combat armor company. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And again, Shuman, thank you for coming into the show. How you been?
Great. Busy.
Very good. How's the city? How's the life?
Coming along. Oh, but
Now, I want to ask you a couple questions in regards about the bond. You and I worked together for about 8 months over at the Lincoln, a couple other projects. Now, in regards to the Lincoln, how long did it take you to redevelop the Lincoln Towers?
a year, the agreement of sale through the property. Line up finance, tax credits.
Sorry, it was a hotel at one point in time, right?
Audit operating.
Now, was it the first? If I can remember correctly, it was the first 9 floors, but then you worked on the other half.
Yeah, so the that's housing. It's compliance. But if you think about it, so that took about 5 years start to finish, and that's about average for a development project in Reading. We've certainly had some take far longer than that.
For the Lincoln Towers. Now, yeah, you said you had a restaurant. I remember you telling me stories about the restaurants there. It's simply the tenants there when I was working with you. They showed me pictures, old menus. You ran the restaurant as well?
Yes, the restaurant was part of the hotel. When we bought the building in its entirety, and I say that because the Lincoln itself, what everybody considers the Lincoln today, is actually 4 different condo units that we still haven't gotten through the merger process to merge them all together. You got the main building, which was the first 3 floors. Then floors 4 through 9 was a separate development process back in the 90s. Floors 10 through 18 was a hotel that was another separate condo development done in 98. And then you had the garage was the 4th the redevelopment project, which was done with the parking authority in the late 90s as well. So we acquired, that's why it took a year to acquire everything. We acquired all of that, put it back into one ownership, which it had not been since, I don't think since the 80s.
Now, you also have the Big Mill formerly the Reading Outlet Center.
Yes.
You had a big project there.
Yeah, that was a whole neighborhood. That was 10 buildings, 640,000 square feet. We started acquiring those back in 2005, and it took about 3 years to acquire all 10 buildings. The parking lots that went with them covers about 6 city blocks in Northeast Reading.
You had I remember driving by there. Didn't know that you took over, but I remember driving by there, showing the property, and something happened. It was an accident there.
So, well, we had done almost all of, well, we had done all of the smaller buildings by 2014. And at that 2014, we were tackling the big mill building, which was the second biggest building in that neighborhood. And about 6 weeks before we were due to get our occupancy permit, there was a massive fire there, arson fire. The FBI and ATF are still investigating it. They said it was set with professional incendiary devices on the 2nd, 4th, and 6th floors. And, the site was shut down. We had over $10 million in damage there. It took us an extra year and a half to finish that project. Turned out great in the end, but it was a catastrophe for a while dealing with all that mess.
Do you still deal with the same issues right now after the fire, or everything's good with the building?
With the building,
Yeah.
The building turned out perfect. It turned out great. It actually gave us a second chance to go back in and do whatever we didn't get 100% right the first time. Yes, there were some things that I wish, for example, we didn't get 100% reimbursed by the insurance company on that. So if you look at the east side of the building, it's different from the west side. The east side's restored back to its 1904 look, and the west side is still that look that's left over from the past 100 years of patchwork and stuff. So we're hoping to come up with the money out of the cash flow on that. So in the next year or two to restore that side as well.
Now, I do remember driving by there and that just going up in flames. I told myself something must have happened here. It's been working off for quite some time, but going in flame, it was all over the news.
It was all over the news. I got calls from my relatives in New Orleans about, it was on their news.
On their news.
It was the 5th biggest fire in the city of Reading, in the history of the city of Reading. And it was a massive fire. And the FBI and ATF had their national team. They were living out of buses up there. They had 22 agents there going through all the wreckage and debris for about 2 months. So yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah, I really I can't forget that I lived in the city of Reading when I was seeing that. I was lived in the North 4th Street.
Okay.
I seen it from there.
I will tell you, the city hall was actually really lucky that we had taken over that property and we're under construction, because it sat there for nearly 10 years before we bought it. And if that would have happened before we owned it and had it insured, the city would have been on the hook for that whole thing. So you're talking about the taxpayers being out $2 or $3 million to level that building and deal with that debris, and the streets being closed down and all that coming straight out of taxpayer pockets.
We could definitely talk about the city down there a little bit later on, because I know you come through a lot of hurdles with them. I catch up on that with soon, but working alongside of you, seeing the BS that you had to go through. Let's talk about a couple of your future projects that you're working on right now.
Sure.
Right here we have the Medical Arts Building.
Look at that. You do.
The Medical Arts Building. What are you planning to do? Is it going to be apartments?
Yep, the Medical Arts is going to be upscale apartments here in the city of Reading. Really, its first upscale apartments. About 30, we're still working on the final details, but somewhere between 36 and 39 apartments, including a really magnificent 2-story, 2,500 square foot penthouse up on the top, which I did just post some. I've been posting some social media posts myself. on those, because that apartment's going to have east deck and a west deck walk out from the living room, from the kitchen, and then each of the bedrooms on the top floor will have their own little private balconies as well. And it's if you look there at the very top of the building, you'll see there's kind of a higher area where it steps up on the on the face of
Yeah.
the building. So that's actually got a hollow kind of open area behind it that we just had fit out for a hot tub there. So you'll have your own little private hot tub 10 stories up.
Private
at City
hot.
Reading.
How are they gonna allow that?
That wall, it doesn't look like it's that high, but that wall's actually 5 feet high.
Oh, okay. Hot tub. You bring New York life over here.
So maybe.
We now, is there going to be any commercial spaces in that one?
Yeah, so the first floor and the lower level will be commercial spaces. When it was the Medical Arts Building, there was a long time ago, back before I think the 70s or 80s, there was a ice cream parlor in the basement. They blocked that off over the years by putting in sprinklers that blocked off the stairwell to go down to that stuff. We're moving all of that, so we will reopen that basement area, and hopefully we'll get a cafe or an ice cream parlor or something going back in again.
That's beautiful. I remember walking through there when you first showed me that building. Push back up there. I remember with a couple of our employees, I had a maintenance guy. He was kind of afraid to get out there. It's completely dark, but people don't know is that walking through a redeveloping project, you learn a lot. When I was working with you, as I was hanging around in the back, I was listening. You bust my balls about certain things that I was doing. I took that in stride. I laughed about it. I smiled about it. I remember actually the first time we met. I was working at the Lincoln. I couldn't mention the prior manager's name, but I remember I just showed up. Something happened with one of the apartments, and an event space was water coming down. I came down off the elevator, walked into and told the manager, "Hey, you need to fix this. This is the big problem going on." And there you go. You showed up, and you looked at me like, "What the hell you guys doing? There's this going on, this, and you guys just sitting there." And I just said, "Oh, that's that. There he goes. That's Shuman. Okay." And but learning from all that, and just hanging around with 35 North 6th Street, seeing that, guys, I seen 35 North 6th Street. I'm going to touch on that one shortly, but I seen that building when it was absolutely nothing. But talking about 35 North 6th Street, we're going to, this is the building right here.
There it is.
A beautiful building. I was honored to see it be constructed from scratch, guys. From the apartments that are there, and he's going to let you know what else he's planning to do on this property.
So most people don't realize that building, even though it's right there next to the courthouse, sat vacant for a decade and pretty much abandoned. Everybody drives by these buildings in Reading and thinks that they're occupied, but that's one of the many that was not. There are still a lot that are not occupied. So what we have there is a historic 1909 Berks County Trust building on the right, and then a big 1964 addition on the left, when I believe it was American Bank and then eventually Meridian Bank built that out and made that their headquarters. So we completely restored that building. That scaffolding, this must have been a recent photo, that scaffolding should be coming down here in about another 2 or 3 weeks. They're just restoring the balconies, 2 of which had collapsed off of the building onto the sidewalk during that period when the building was vacant and abandoned. And again, we're talking about 2 1.5-ton balconies that luckily nobody was walking underneath. That's why the prior owner walked away from the building. They just weren't able to maintain it anymore. The pipes froze inside because they couldn't keep the heat at the proper temperature, and it was in very bad condition. But it's magnificent now. Everything is, the top 3 floors are very nice apartments. The next 2 floors below that are all office space. Visions Federal Credit Union has made a kind of a Eastern PA operations center there. And then the first floor, that magnificent bank branch, has been fully restored and should be opening as a food court, hopefully here first half of July.
I I I'm like literally lost for words because I seen this building when I said, like I said before, from scratch. Literally, I seen where there was no apartments, just studs, metal studs, and concrete. And when it was being transformed, it was just a huge learning curve. Now walking up and down those steps, you kill me. I was like 50 pounds there, but it was well worth it. But then I'm hearing people telling me what's going on with the main level, the first floor level, and then right next door, the courthouse. A lot of people ask me what's going on. That's again in Reading. You're going to have the first building, I believe, is apartment and food court in downtown Reading. Just nothing out there like that. Um, but yeah, that building, man, yeah, I learned a lot from that building. Um, I didn't really say much. I just kind of kept it in, but truthfully, I learned wide enough in that building. And guys, you gotta see when the food court opens, the original architect in the where the bank was holding that, beautiful. Oh, again, he's gonna hopefully be open down the road, July.
Hopefully the first half of July. Yeah, the food court, I don't know if you have any photos of that to put up, but that's a real, uh, you know, passion there in getting the detailed work restored there. It probably has the finest ornamental plaster ceiling in the entire county. We had plasterers come in, specialists, and train a lot of the local guys so to keep the work local. And I think we have nearly $2 million into restoring just that, the ceiling and the details there. The gold leaf is amazing. Got $15,000 in gold. Those
15,000.
super thin sheets of gold, going up in there. It really turned out great.
He's again, you guys are love him or hate the guy, but he's not lying. This building is amazing to see. That first floor is amazing. I do have photos. I didn't keep it. I have it with me, but I never posted it just because I didn't know. I didn't want to step any toes or private or anything like that. But I definitely will post it down the road.
Okay.
Now we have coming up the old Wells Fargo building. Old Wells Fargo building.
There we go. That's a good picture.
Right there. A lot of people knows this as the old Wells Fargo they had for years. I actually have a question after we get through with this. So, what is it? Mostly commercial apartments. What is it?
Oh, so I'm assuming you don't have a photo of the interior. Most people don't realize it has so everybody's familiar with the old Meridian or the Meridian complex out in Spring Ridge.
Mhm.
That was their operations center. Meridian's headquarters was this building right here. There was really no expense spared when they built this building back in 1995. It has a huge 4-story atrium, all glass roof over that, with a sky bridge going across to the executive suites. So because of that big atrium, it made it very difficult to try to lay out for a residential conversion. So we decided to keep it as all commercial space, meaning all office space. We did reopen the restaurant on the first floor. We leased that out to Skylight Lounge. We have a few other retail spaces on the first floor that we're being very selective about because a lot of times the first floor impacts the upper floors. And then we're just moving office tenants in. The second floor is about half leased. The third floor is about half leased. The fourth floor is still all available. And the fourth floor were the old executive offices. They are really, really nice. And we don't want to divide those up. So we're really looking for an office tenant who's going to be taking at least 15,000 square feet to take the bulk of that floor.
Yeah, as you hear, guys, that the fourth floor is still available. Definitely gonna push it out. I mean, work with a lot of people here in the office. We work with a lot of commercial tenants. We never know, we might come up with something like that. When in this building, to be truthful, no BS here. I didn't care too much for it. It was not my responsibility when I was with you. I did walk there when a colleague of ours was there. and massive building. I was there during some training, but when the other colleague said he's taking, he's the one in charge, I just raised my hands like, good, this is massive. No way in hell I'm gonna do this. And so, but the interior of that building is as soon as you walk in, you look straight up to the skylights, is massive. That'd be a great space. The question that I have is, right across the street, you own that building there. Right across the street is
The Exide building.
Yep.
Yep.
There's a recent purchase. Recently, there's I think a company, Heights Advisors from outside of upstate.
Yes, Heights Advisors out of New York is trying to buy the 10-story Santander building
Right across the street, correct?
right across the street.
They do want to do like a 200 building apartments in there.
Yeah, 200 really small apartments. I think 214 square feet or 220 square feet, something like that.
All right, what you feel about that?
I'm trying to stay out of that. I think that it's not the upscale kind of look I'd want to see across the street. And honestly, I'd rather see commercial. That 10-story building is one of the most modern office buildings in not just the city, but the county. There haven't been that many big office buildings built in Berks County since it was built in the 80s. And, it's laid out well. So, I'd hope that to keep it as office space.
Is there even any possible chance that being converted to apartments? You need some parking space. I would assume.
Yeah, so that's one of the hard things is dealing with parking in that particular part of the city. There are a lot of garages there, but garages are great for longer term parking. But apartments, you have a lot of people coming in, going out, and you're not going to drop off, visit your friend for 10 minutes if you got to park in a garage 2 blocks away.
Yeah. Real quick, I just saw a message come up on Facebook from a dear friend of ours, George Diaz. He just said, "Alan, how you doing?"
I'm doing fine.
We have the next building that you're working on. One of my favorites, the Trexler Mansion. When you show me this building, actually, let me take a step back. Before you purchased this building, I drove past this building a million times. I didn't know how the hell to get it, or even to obtain it, or anything. I said,
Well, it had a big sign right in the front for 10 years saying for sale.
For sale, but I have no way connections, and I just fell in love with this building just on the outside. And then I believe you did like a Facebook, a video tour of the inside.
So we did a video tour, but we also did an open house.
That's right.
Last August, I think, at this point, on a Thursday afternoon. We had just a 4-hour open house. We had 1,100 people show up for the open house. I was amazed at the people coming from other states, driving in from Ohio, from Virginia, from Maryland, from Delaware, coming in, and it was a lot of ladies with their wedding albums and photo albums that got married here, and they were walking around with these photo albums from the 60s, 50s. There was even one lady with photo albums from the 40s, that she got married in, and they were all showing each other the photos of what it looked like, back when, here's the photo of me getting married in 1942 in this room,
Wow.
So it actually helped us, because, we're trying, that's a National Park Service supervised or oversight historic restoration we're doing there. So we're trying to restore the interior back to its 1908 status, which is when it had the major overhaul by the Elks Club. So those photos are helping us restore the plaster ceilings and come up with the wall coverings that were close to the original and light fixtures that were close to the original, all that kind of stuff.
That's beautiful. This building here, once I found out that you had it and I was working, I begged to see it. I asked the security. When you said, "No, I could tell you too." You took me on that tour. It had, and downstairs it has a bowling alley.
It's got a 4-lane bowling alley.
Staying there?
Oh yeah, yeah, we're
Oh
restoring
my
that.
God.
It's got a 50-foot long, I believe, Mercer tile bar down there. That's all getting restored. So now this particular building, I will say that the reason nobody wanted to do it is because it is not a money making project. This is going to lose money. But next year, when we finish this, next year will be Shuman Development Group's 30th anniversary here in Reading for 30 years in business, and we are going to unveil this as kind of our, you know, present to the city of Reading. You know, thanking us for, or thanking them for, you know, in the community for 30 years of supporting Shuman Development Group by having this building restored.
Is it- I hope I'm invited still.
It will be open again to the public when we finish. We're going to do probably a couple of days of open house there
Beautiful.
before we do the grand reopening as event space.
Like I said, so is this is gonna be mostly event spaces?
Whole thing is going to be event space.
Okay. And when do you say next year? It's gonna be done
So yeah, we're hoping to have it done next summer.
next summer. Looking
So
forward
we're
to
working
it.
our way through the approvals right now. We've got about half of the approvals. Of course, a lot of people may have seen in the paper or on the news, we did run into a structural issue with a few of the steel structural beams holding up the roof above the ballroom. And the city and county helped kick in a couple of dollars to help get that fixed. The reason why that was important, it wasn't important for the building. The roof, you know, wasn't going to come down or anything like that. But back in 1908, there was a rooftop party deck up there. And we wanted to reopen that as part of the actual restoration back to the 1908 level. So big top deck, there's a bar area that the awning opens up and you can serve up there. So we needed those beams replaced to hold the weight of having 175 people up there on the roof.
I could tell you this building, Trexler Mansion, is right up there to the Lincoln Towers for me. I was called crazy when I was managing the Lincoln. I was called, why am I doing this? You crazy? And I told you one-on-one at the balcony there. I said the Lincoln Tower is like I treat it like one of my own, my baby, because I fell in love with it. Getting called crazy for it, dealing with everything there, but I'm like, that one and this building, I fell in love with, and the downtown Reading. So I'm looking forward to what you're doing with this building. Definitely, if you still allow it to happen, take some tours on some of these buildings that I have seen start from scratch. 35, this building. Hopefully, if you allow it, down the road we could meet up one day and just take quick tours.
Sure.
But yeah, Trexler Mansion, Lincoln are the two buildings that I fell in love with in downtown Reading. I think that's the only two buildings. So I have a couple other questions outside of what we're doing on the future projects. A lot of people know you. I've seen a lot of seminars that you've been to, and you introduce how you got started. Some people that don't know, how do you get started in real estate? How do you what draw you into
What
real
drew
estate?
me in, or how did
Yeah,
they get in?
you.
Me? So I got drawn in because I couldn't find a place to live. When I was going to, you had mentioned that I graduated from Penn State. When I went to Penn State started there in 1987, and at that time it was extremely difficult to find a place to live. They had more students than they had housing. And a bunch of guys from my high school going up there also could not find places to live. So we were looking around and we came across a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse that the owner had up for sale. He would not rent it, but he would sell it. And, you know, that's what he was trying to do. And he would hold financing. It was $60,000. If I could come up with 10% down, he would hold the financing. So there's no way a 18 or 19-year-old can come up with $6,000. This was back in the 80s. $6,000 was a lot of money back then. But the Army Reserves was offering a $6,000 infantry bonus for signing up for the Army Reserve. So I signed on the dotted line, used the bonus as a down payment, got the house, put bunk beds in each of the rooms, and the guys from my high school each rented a bunk bed in there. I made enough to pay the mortgage, pay all the utilities, pay all the taxes, went to college rent free. And then when I got out of college and finished my time in the military, came down here to Reading, 'cause my wife was from Reading.
Yeah.
And, she pushed me to get back into real estate after we moved in an apartment down here and paying rent for a couple of years, and I liked the real estate thing. So,
Reading bred. You were always born and raised Reading, or?
so me, no. My ancestors are from the Ole Valley,
Okay.
up until about the 1850s. Then they moved to North Central PA, which was where I was raised, up in Selinsgrove area, and now I'm back down here.
Now, what is the biggest hurdles you had to overcome as you were growing into becoming a developer that you are today, man?
Oh, definitely getting through the permits, approvals, all those government things that drag stuff out and make it really difficult to do development projects.
Piggybacking off of that, as I was working, I have seen you go through take a lot of heat from people. I heard take a lot of negativity. How do you handle all that?
Well, back in '99, I ran for city council, so I took way more heat then than anything else. So I try to stay out of the politics as much as possible. Yeah, I take heat, but I just try to not, again, I try to stay out of the politics. I get drug in on every single thing.
I was just about to ask you that.
When you're doing development, there is no way to stay out of it. Unfortunately, what a lot of people don't realize is that when these politicians, and I'm talking worldwide,
Okay.
not just here in Reading, but when politicians realize they can hold up a multi-million-dollar development project, not indefinitely, but delay it by a month or two. A lot of time, when a project is costing you $2,000 or $3,000 a day in carrying costs, them fast tracking it or just giving you an approval now as opposed to a delay really helps that project go through, and they realize that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
unfortunately, it creates an area there where there's some incentives that probably shouldn't be there for politicians to delay things, because they know it can hurt, and they use that as leverage sometimes.
All right. I'm going to stop my questions here. I have questions from online Facebook. It says, Alan, what would you say is the easiest thing so far you have come across as your journey as being an investor?
The easiest thing.
Easiest thing.
Easiest thing. Oh.
Not much, probably.
The easiest thing from an investment point of view, so is, really just I guess it depends on how you want to look at that. So I think one of the things that comes easy to me is always trying to do a really high quality job and take care of the tenants or take care of the customers. Because word gets around not quickly, you'll make a whole lot more money screwing a bunch of people over,
Mhm.
and over 2 or 3 years, you'll make more money. But over 10 years or 15 years or 30 years, like we've been in business, if you really take care of people, they all come back and send over referrals, and you'll get to the point where everything goes great. So that was one thing that came really easy to me, is that just taking care of people and doing the right thing. From an investment point of view, the easiest investments I have ever made is really driving around the city. You can tell properties that look like they're distressed, getting a hold of the owners and locking them up. And you'd be surprised how many times, once you actually do the hard work of locking them up, how easy it is sometimes it is to make money on those. As soon as word gets out that I've locked up a property, I get calls from people in Philly, people in New York, people in New Jersey, that are just begging me to turn those properties over to them. And sometimes at significantly more than what we locked them up for. Now, I rarely ever do that. Once I put in all the time, some of these properties take years or decades to lock up properly. And we don't just pick up a property because it makes money. We go into a neighborhood and we try to revitalize the neighborhood. So you'll see that, the Lincoln on North 5th Street there, we have the Lincoln, we have the Medical Arts Building, but a lot of people don't realize that we also have the Corbett Building there that we rehab, so we'd have secure indoor parking. It's got the biggest indoor parking garage in the city that's heated. And we haven't announced it yet, but we also have the 210 North 5th Street, the Fulton Bank Building there locked up that we're going to close on this fall, which will give us lots of outdoor parking for the Medical Arts Building in addition to the parking lot that's next to it. So we'll have plenty of parking there to try to revitalize North 5th Street.
Congrats, 210. Oh, okay. Yeah, good. So congrats on that. I know that Medical Arts. You came across any issues with the parking lot with the neighbors? As they're parking their vehicles. I remember that they're always parking their vehicles.
But once you start enforcing, how do you handle that? Yeah. You just start enforcing parking. A lot of people, a lot of the more vacant buildings around town, the neighbors park there illegally or without permission. And, some of them get a little upset when, finally someone owns it and starts to say, hey, listen, you're going to have to pay to park here. Well, I've been parking there for 10 years and haven't had to pay. Well, you do now. Building hasn't paid taxes in 10 years. It's going to be paying them now. We need you to pay us because we're going to pay those.
And we have another question online. Facebook. Like I said, when we created this podcast is no BS. So I have straight out the Facebook Live. It says, why are you supporting a loser like Eddie Moran?
Okay, so
let's talk straight facts.
Straight facts. Okay. Straight facts. How do I say this nicely? Do you realize who our current mayor replaced? And the issues that were there with the prior mayor? I told you we redid the second biggest outlet building, the big mill building.
Yep.
Building number 1, the biggest building that took up a whole city block at 9th and Douglas. You'll notice got leveled. That got leveled because we were in court with the city. The city wouldn't give us I had my rehab plan torn up by the administration. A rehab, so when you buy a big building in the city, the codes office only gives you 30 days to renovate. Obviously, it's going to take more time than that on a big building. So you submit to the city a rehab plan. That's the way they did it at that time. The rehab plan could be, hey, this is what I'm going to do over the next 1, 2, 3 years, whatever period of time. So big building like that, you're not going to do it in a month. We got to order from the city to replace all 1,600 windows in 30 days. So to replace the roof, the northwest corner of that building, the roof had collapsed down to the second floor. So, matter of fact, there was a photo of me, the front page of the Eagle with me standing there on the first floor looking through a hole all the way to the sky.
I remember that.
I got to order 30 days. So the city takes 30 business days to approve a permit. I couldn't even get a permit to start the work. And so the city took me to court on that. City ended up losing in court. The judge told him it was ridiculous, to order me to do something and then refuse to give me the permits to do it. So it was a catastrophe, dealing with that administration. So I will say the current administration is so much better than that.
Yes.
Now, yes, I still have my frustrations. I don't understand why the buildings at Fifth and Penn have sat there for over 4 years now. The last time they went out for bid, I was the only bidder. 5 of the times before that, 5 of the 6 times before that, I was one of the 2 or 3 bidders. Obviously they put it out for sale enough, out for bid, that those properties should be rehabbed. But
Again,
Yeah.
same guy. Just making a statement here. Says he was an inspector in the city. He knows what goes on internally there. They only work for some people. It is what it is.
I didn't
He
understand.
said his comment on your answer was he was an inspector in the city,
Okay.
and he knows what was going on internally there. They only work for some people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they only work for some people.
Keep on with the questions, guys. No BS here. Now you are redeveloping downtown Reading one building at a time. I have seen again.
Well, we're doing more than one building at a time now.
I
So
see that
we
you-
have refocused. No more Northeast Reading. We're done there. We are focusing on the downtown right now.
Downtown. Have you thought about expanding
Expanding what? The downtown?
outside the city of Reading?
No.
Not
I mean,
just-
yes, I get calls all the time. I get calls every week or two from every one of the cities around here, the community development office, the mayor's offices, whether it's Allentown, Bethlehem, Lancaster, York, Lebanon, I've gotten calls. We've flown to Memphis, we've flown to Buffalo, we've flown to Mobile, Alabama. We get calls from lots of people. There's very few people that actually restore, urban buildings in non-major metro cities.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll have plenty of people in Philly and New York, but a non-metro area like that, there aren't very many people who do that.
Okay. You touched on this already about the hurdles. Again, as you see, we get feedbacks. Like I tell you guys, love it, hate him. What he does inside downtown Reading is amazing. Why do you think this happens? They give you all these hurdles to overcome.
So it's not just me. Yes, there are, with the prior administration, it was just me. I don't want to say that. I think they were pretty much anti-business all around. But just the mentality is not pro-business. If you have an issue and you go into City Hall, for example, you go to the city's one-stop meeting. Their one-stop meeting, which anywhere else is supposed to be a one-stop. You stop there one time to get your approvals. Well, in Reading, it's a one-stop to talk to everybody about all of the paperwork you're going to have to do to move forward. After that one stop, you got 50 more stops that they told you about at that one stop. So, I remember when not our prior mayor, but the mayor prior to that, who's finishing up his 8-year prison sentence soon, had a how to do business in Reading book that they gave you at that one stop. It was 80 pages long, an instruction book with references to all of the appendixes for which you had to get, which were additional forms and stuff that you had to fill out to get permits, approvals, all that kind of stuff in the city. You talk about the Big Mill building. Well, that neighborhood, when we bought those buildings out there, that neighborhood was zoned RO. RO means residential or national brand name outlets. You couldn't move a restaurant in, you couldn't move a grocery store in, you couldn't put a barber shop in. It took us 6 years to get the zoning changed to allow for that shopping center to open out there. It's been hugely successful. The El Galito grocery store, the taco places, the Save-A-Lot. 6 years to get all those approvals.
And with that being said, you bring these Save-A-Lot jobs.
Yeah, that center
Piece of
brought in
it-
about 130 jobs to that neighborhood, desperately needed. You drive, so every single time I drive on 422 around the city, you see on the south side of the city, the big 7-story Canal Street building down there. It's been sitting vacant for, God, I don't know how long, 50 years. So I remember when Bill McShane, the owner of that building, the prior owner of that building, who lived in the building next door, his family built that building 100+ years ago. He tried for 20 years to get approvals to convert that to apartments. Not permitted. It's an MC zoning district. MC zoning district does not allow any residential uses, can't be converted over. So there's a perfect example that you see every time of a big building that would make a fabulous apartment building, but it can't be. Now, yeah, we've considered taking it on. It would probably take us 5 to 10 years to get the zoning changed so that it could be used, just like we did at the Allen Center. But the carrying costs, I mean, imagine this. You're going to have to buy a property or lock it up. You're going to have to own that property and pay taxes on it, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. You're going to have to pay security. You're going to have to pay whatever else on a property like that for 5 to 10 years before you got the approvals to be able to start moving forward with getting your financing and actually doing the project. So those are the things that really hold back development in the city, and why you see a lot of these buildings starting to collapse and stuff, and because it just takes so long.
Yeah, it's a shame. Doing real estate myself inside. Now it's strictly residential, but doing real estate, I do see a lot of the buildings, especially in Penn Street, where a lot of the buildings are just vacant, just sitting there, collecting dust, breaking down over time. It's a shame.
There's a huge amount of New York and New Jersey speculators that buy properties in Reading. They lock them up, hoping that one administration or another or something will change. They were hoping 2 years ago that Alvernia would change the everything going on at City Hall, and really spark a revival. And I'm not, Alvernia definitely did some great PR stuff and is still doing that. But these speculators lock stuff up, don't want to rehab it, and then they just want to flip it and think they're going to sell it for 5 times what they bought it for, and it locks these properties up. Nothing happening to them.
Now I have another question. Like I said, as some individual came to me, it says, "Are you investing in Reading because it comes from the love of the city, from your heart, or personal interest?"
Well, so I guess I'll give you the facts and let you decide on that. First of all, I love historic buildings. As we said, I've got a degree in history from Penn State, so I love historic architecture. For example, 35 North 6th Street, that food court, I did not have to spend anywhere near that amount of money, that $2 million on that food court. We didn't have to put in real gold leaf and all other kind of stuff, but it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
So I love those historic buildings. If they were not in Reading and we're in, we're in West Reading, I would probably be, it might be in West Reading. The other thing is that I live a mile and a half from my office, from the downtown. So, I love being able to do stuff with my family. I love being able to, not be tied into long commutes.
Yes.
So the convenience is great. And I remember the former director of Greater Berks Development Fund, Ed Swoyer, had said at a meeting I was at that one of the reasons why Shuman Development Group does a lot of projects nobody else does is because I'm willing to take a lower return than a lot of other people are, and we do. We do a lot of projects like the Elks Club that we won't get a return on, a financial return, but we can do it. And, so we've got another office building or two a block away, and that'll help cover the maintenance on it. And, our staff can come over and take care of the maintenance. Our staff can come over and take care of the cleaning. So it doesn't cost us that much to do that. And it saves that historic building and puts it back into use. So is it Reading love? I think Reading's great. I think Reading has a fabulous history, and I think it it is in danger of losing a lot of that. And I think I can help save a lot of that, and hopefully other people get on board and help save it as well.
Now, I could personally tell you, working alongside of you, all your properties is very, very well maintained. Every single one of them. From the Lincoln to a couple of properties you have down in Fifth Street, the old West Fargo, but every single one of them is very, very well maintained. There's other properties neighboring to your properties that they are not well maintained. So you keep these your own properties in a high standards to at least keep the area looking great for the city. Okay, you still catch slack from that too as well.
When I was going back to when I was in the military, I was infantry for 2 years, and I switched over, and I was an armor officer for my balance of the time in the military. So one of the things you learn as an officer in the military is you're the one who sets the standards, and you're the one who enforces those standards and makes sure that everybody else, follows those standards. So I set the standards for the buildings, and Elvin, you work there.
Yes,
I'm not going to slack on those standards. The sidewalks get cleaned every morning. The landscaping gets done. Yes, it would be a lot cheaper to get rid of all the landscaping and concrete and stuff, but that would not be the standard that I've set there, and isn't the standard that I like to see the city held to.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. I just working and seeing that done across the board from the parking lots to the Lincoln.
I mean, that photo you had up of 600 Penn Street, showing the landscaping and stuff on that photo. I mean, that's exactly the look we want. And the stand. There you go. That's the standard.
And guys, I could vouch for it. This is how he keeps every single one of his properties. Every single one. I seen. I call out and say what building, but right across the street in the north from the Lincoln Towers, they had weeds growing up, and it was half my height.
Yeah, 5 feet high.
5 feet and nothing. At least maybe nothing. But this is his standards that I personally seen keeping the area in tip-top condition and very well maintained property. And the outside part of the cover appeal is just beautiful, and every one of your properties. So I could personally attest to that. Now we have a couple more questions that popped up as well. On Facebook, we have any plans on downtown entertainment to attract nightlife?
Oh man, I'm not the entertainment person. That's the Civic Center or the Performing Arts Center. I think they've got pretty many options right now. Although I would say that I wish the parking authority would get more on board with making it easier to park for those entertainment options. I do think the downtown could use some more, restaurants or evening life, which you allude to. And I think that's going to come. Part of that is redoing Penn Street with parking all along Penn Street instead of the bus stops, make it easier to park there. And there's right now, due to COVID, a bunch of the big buildings, downtown office buildings, like you had mentioned, 601 Penn Street, are completely vacant or mostly vacant. Particularly Santander, they've moved a lot of offices, I believe, a lot of operations back to or up to Boston. So it's going to take a while for those to fill in and stuff to happen. But I think once you start seeing that, you'll start to get those restaurants and operations back.
Yeah. I don't think he probably voiced his opinion on this question here. He says, can you push a plan where people will feel comfortable going downtown because there will be a larger crowd and less of a chance of crime to occur? Bring people from out of the city into the city where they can feel safe and enjoy nightlife. What's your opinion?
I agree completely. And I will say that I don't know how long that person has been around, but when we bought the outlet center in Northeast Reading, so that neighborhood had been completely decimated. Those 10 buildings all vacant. There were illegal chop shops running out of the courtyard of the big mill building. There were, all kinds of illegal activity in the other buildings, broken windows, graffiti. It was terrible. We first opened that shopping center out there. We had to have full-time security day and night because there was a demand for the tenants that we got in there because there was that much crime in the neighborhood. Now that shopping center is 100% occupied. The daycare is open 24/7. There's people constantly going in and out, and crime has dramatically dropped in that neighborhood because of it. So I agree completely that activity downtown would breed more security. I have my frustrations with the city not enforcing codes on a lot of the owners that are speculators downtown that have a lot of these big buildings locked up and nothing's happening year after year. Although it's hard for the city to justify enforcing it when, leading by example, the city's properties at 5th and Penn are still sitting there vacant after a decade. And then you got the federal government leading by example with the post office that has 3 employees and is in terrible shape sitting there. So there's a lot of government levels here that should really step up to the plate if that's going to happen.
Now, what I understand, this might be the last question from the public here. What is your relationship with Boscov?
With Boscov department store. So
I'm assuming the guy.
So I've met Jim a few times. That's the current director of Boscov Department Stores. Albert and I had met numerous times. We've been out to dinner a couple of times, particularly with the open of Ashiyan, the Indian restaurant on South 4th Street that we both helped get open, 20 years ago, a long time ago. I don't know. I mean, they currently have the nonprofit, Our City of Reading. I've met with a few people from that group over the last couple of years since Albert passed, trying to help them get going with the Goggle Works 2 project. They still own a bunch of stuff around the city. I'm not exactly sure what. I think some things on North 9th Street or Green Street or something. I'm not really sure. I have not ever met with Jim to discuss their particular projects. So there's, it's not like Albert was very involved in the city. I don't think they're as on top of that as they used to be.
Any more questions online, let me know. My final question for you, if there's anybody else out there on Facebook, just general question. What is your definition of success?
My definition of success. That's a tough one. You should have given me a heads up so I could have prepared an answer for that one.
Off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head.
Yes.
I would say setting some standards and some goals and achieving them. I mean, every year between Christmas and New Year's, I sit down with my kids and we do a goal list for the year. They pick out their goals and not wishes, goals. And then they will give me a plan and I will do the same thing on how we plan on achieving those goals for the year. And whether that's, physical working out or whether that's, financial goal or whether it's, my son just had a goal of getting a new 4-season tent so he could camp out in the wintertime. And he just achieved that goal, this past week. Saved up enough money for that, or earned up enough money for that. I think that's success.
No, you just came up, questions that came up because we're in that season. We've seen high schoolers, they're graduating. What's your advice to give them?
Definitely get a job. And when I say that, I'm actually going to be in Washington, D.C. next week at a national tax credit convention or conference. And I've got a really good friend down there that I'm going to have dinner with again. And he was super successful in high school and college, but then he took a job. And he took a job because it paid a lot, but he didn't take it because he was going to learn anything from it and stuff. So every job I've taken, I've taken jobs for minimum wage, but I knew that they had a great training course in sales. Now, for example, for those of you who are around, when Circuit City was here, I had a job with Circuit City, and before that I had a job with Radio Shack. Both did not pay that well, but they had great sales training classes. I remember going away to Virginia for 2 weeks for a sales training class. And, that's the reason why I took those jobs. I took construction jobs back in high school and in college over the summer to learn how to do construction. So, it's more important to learn those skills when you're in high school and college, in your teens and 20s, so that those skills and can use them the rest of your life rather than make an extra couple of bucks an hour and not have those skills later on. I mean, I know the basics right now. I mean, you've seen, you go into these buildings, I've got a good basic understanding of framing, electrical work, plumbing work, HVAC work, concrete work, because I was assistance for all those, even if it was nominally paid assistance. I learned the basics doing that.
Final 2 questions from Facebook, and I think that's it. It says here, how do you see the future of Reading in 10 years? Let's see if you have a good vision of the town.
Oh man. So listen, there are a bunch of things that could have major swings to the upside over the next 10 years. But I will temper that by saying they've been available for the last 20 years and still haven't happened.
Yes.
So I am hoping and putting some pretty major contracts out right now on certain properties, that hoping over the next 18 months some of those fall into place. If they do, you could see Reading become like some of the other cities around here, like Lancaster or Bethlehem, that have taken off.
Now, last and final question that I have, I guess it's a personal opinion.
Okay.
How can you achieve things by supporting people like Moran?
How can I achieve things? So, I mean, when you say how can I achieve things, so Mayor Moran is the mayor. I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, Reading's going to have a mayor. If there was a more pro-business mayor, whatever, then that was elected, then I guess Reading could move faster towards pro-business. But he's definitely more pro-business than our last mayor, so seems like things are moving in the right direction.
All right. Well, no other questions I see here. Okay. So, again, thanks for coming.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor, a pleasure having you here. Just keep in touch. Again, the buildings that we worked with, that I was there seeing them be developed, I wouldn't mind taking a quick tour. I know you're super busy, and I know I wouldn't mind saying hi to a few people back there. All the good friends, Ken, Dana, and everybody else over there. I'm not sure where they're at right now, but definitely want to say hello and see 35 North 6th Street, Medical Arts, especially the Els Club, and the Lincoln. Again, once again, appreciate you coming. Thank you for swinging by. Next week we're going to be having a lender. Again, the do's and don'ts of buying a house here in Pennsylvania, Berks County. Again, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Thank you. You guys have a wonderful weekend and enjoy your day.
Thank you.